The process that I have just described is profoundly powerful, yet simple, could be taught to a child, and hopefully one day it will be one of the first things children learn in school. Once you have understood the basic principle of being present as the watcher of what happens inside you, and you understand it by experiencing it, you have at your disposal the most potent transformational tool. This is not to deny that you may encounter intense inner resistance to disidentifying from your pain. This will be the case particularly if you have lived closely identified with your emotional pain body for most of your life, and the whole or a large part of your sense of self is invested in it. What this means is that you have made an unhappy self out of your pain body and believe that this mind-made fiction is who you are. In that case, unconscious fear of losing your identity will create strong resistance to any disidentification. In other words, you would rather be in pain, be the pain body, than take a leap into the unknown and risk losing the familiar, unhappy self. If this applies to you, observe the resistance within yourself. Observe the attachment to your pain. Be very alert. Observe the peculiar pleasure you derive from being unhappy. Observe the compulsion to talk or think about it. The resistance will cease if you make it conscious. You can then take your attention into the pain body, stay present as the witness, and, in doing so, initiate its transmutation. Only you can do this. Nobody can do it for you. But if you are fortunate enough to find someone who is intensely conscious, if you can be with them and join them in the state of presence, that can be helpful and will accelerate things. In this way, your own light will quickly grow stronger. When a log that has only just started to burn is placed next to one that is burning fiercely, and after a while they are separated again, the first log will be burning with much greater intensity. After all, it is the same fire. To be such a fire is one of the functions of a spiritual teacher. Some therapists may also be able to fulfill that function, provided that they have gone beyond the level of mind and can create and sustain a state of intense conscious presence while they are working with you. Many of us go through life carrying a silent burden, a reservoir of unresolved emotional pain. This Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body. It is an energy field of old emotional wounds, passed down through generations or accumulated through personal experiences. The pain body feeds on negativity, and it thrives in unconsciousness. But what happens when we identify with it? What happens when the ego, a false sense of self, merges with this pain body? The ego is not who we truly are. It is a mental construct, a collection of thoughts, labels, and narratives we use to define ourselves. Yet, this identity is fragile and constantly seeking validation. When the ego aligns itself with the pain body, it creates a powerful and often destructive force. The ego feeds on the pain body's suffering, using it as a sense of identity. I am my pain, my anger, my fear, my story. It becomes a narrative that shapes how we see the world and ourselves. This identification creates a cycle of suffering. The pain body craves negativity to sustain itself, and the ego obliges by finding reasons to feel offended, victimized, or superior. When someone triggers our pain, we lash out or withdraw, perpetuating the pain in ourselves and others. We are no longer present in life. We are lost in the stories of the past or fears about the future. Breaking this cycle begins with awareness. To observe the pain body within us is to separate from it. The moment we recognize it as an entity, we stop feeding it. We realize, I have a pain body, but I am not my pain body. Similarly, when we notice the ego's incessant need for drama and validation, we see it for what it is, a survival mechanism, not our essence. The power of the present moment is our greatest tool in transcending ego identification. In the now, the pain body cannot sustain itself, for it relies on time, on past hurts and future worries. Presence dissolves the illusion of ego and the grip of the pain body, revealing the deeper truth of who we are, consciousness itself, free, unbounded, and whole. This is not to say that we suppress our pain or deny its existence. Rather, we embrace it with full awareness, shining the light of consciousness on it. When we do, we begin to dissolve the egoic structures that bind us. The pain body loses its power, and we step into a new dimension of being, a space of peace, joy, and aliveness that is untouched by external circumstances. The journey of freeing ourselves from the pain body and the ego is not easy, but it is the most important work we can do. As we liberate ourselves, we also contribute to the liberation of others. Consciousness is contagious. As we become more present and aware, we inspire others to do the same. This is how we transform not only ourselves but the world around us. In the end, we realize that the ego and the pain body are not enemies to be conquered but parts of the human experience to be transcended through awareness. Beyond them lies our true nature, a state of pure being, unburdened by the illusions of the mind. This is the essence of awakening. Not to fight the pain body, but to recognize that it was never who we were. The pain body is an accumulation of old emotional pain that almost all people carry within them. It is a semi-autonomous energy form that lives within the human being, arising from past experiences of suffering. This pain body can be dormant for extended periods or active, triggered by external circumstances, interactions, or even thoughts. When it awakens, it seeks to feed itself through more pain, creating negativity, conflict, and drama in one's life and relationships. The ego, on the other hand, is the false self, a mental construct, a collection of thoughts and identifications that we mistake for who we are. It thrives on separation and feeds on the illusion of control, superiority, or inferiority. It is an illusion that creates the perception of being isolated from life, from others, and from the essence of who you are. When the ego identifies with the pain body, it strengthens it. This identification means that the pain is no longer something that you have but becomes something you are. It becomes part of your identity. You think and feel, this is who I am this pain, I am this anger, I am this resentment. In this state of identification, the pain body takes over your mind, your thoughts, and even your body, manifesting as reactive behavior, emotional outbursts, and self-destructive patterns. The pain body loves to be right. It loves to argue, complain, and blame. It thrives in conflict because conflict generates the very negativity it feeds on. When the pain body is active, it distorts your perception of reality. You interpret situations and the actions of others through the lens of your pain, often projecting your unresolved issues onto the world. You become trapped in a cycle where you unconsciously perpetuate your suffering, feeding the pain body and keeping the ego alive. But this pain is not who you are. It is a remnant of the past, an energy field that has attached itself to your sense of self. The moment you recognize it as such, you create space. Awareness is the key. To simply notice the pain body as it arises, to observe its movements, its cravings for negativity, and its attempts to pull you into unconsciousness, is the beginning of liberation. You cannot fight the pain body, for to fight it is to resist it, and resistance feeds it. Instead, you bring the light of your presence to it. When you are present, fully aware in the moment, the pain body cannot sustain itself. It needs you to be unconscious to survive. Consciousness dissolves it. The moment you stop identifying with it, you remove its power over you. This awareness applies to the ego as well. The ego seeks to protect itself by clinging to roles, stories, and identities. It tells you, without me, you are nothing. But this is the great lie. Who you truly are is beyond the ego, beyond the pain body. Your true essence is pure being, pure consciousness, unconditioned and free. It is not diminished by external circumstances, nor is it defined by the content of your mind. The practice is simple but profound. Remain present. Watch the mind, observe the pain body, and notice when the ego seeks to align itself with your pain. Each time you bring awareness to these processes, they begin to lose their hold on you. The pain body cannot survive in the light of presence, and the ego's illusions are seen for what they are. Over time, the pain body becomes weaker, less frequent in its activation. The ego becomes quieter, its voice less convincing, and in their place, a sense of peace arises, a peace that is not dependent on external conditions, a peace that is the essence of who you are. This is the liberation from suffering, the awakening to your true self. The journey is not about rejecting the ego or annihilating the pain body. It is about transcending them through awareness. They are not enemies but teachers, pointing you toward the deeper truth of your being. By observing them without judgment, by allowing them to be without identifying with them, you step into the vastness of the present moment. Here, in the now, you find freedom not from life but through life. The pain body is a dense emotional energy field that resides within every human being. It is born of old emotional pain, both from personal experiences and from the collective human condition. This pain accumulates over time, buried within us because it was never fully faced, felt, and released. It does not dissolve on its own. Instead, it waits for the right trigger, an event, a word, a memory to reawaken and take control. When this happens, the pain body feeds on further pain, negativity, and conflict, perpetuating itself through unconscious reactions and behaviors. The ego, the sense of self derived from thought and identification, merges seamlessly with the pain body. The ego needs content to define itself, and the pain body provides it with exactly that, an identity rooted in suffering. Together, they create a powerful entity that feels deeply personal. This fusion leads to the illusion: I am my pain, I am my anger, resentment, fear, or grievance. This identification transforms the pain body into who you believe yourself to be. When the pain body is active, you become lost in it, controlled by its energy, and unable to separate your true self from the emotional turmoil within. The pain body loves to identify with thoughts and stories that reinforce its existence. It thrives on memories of past injustices and wrongs, feeding the narrative of being a victim or a perpetrator, depending on its nature. Whether it manifests as sadness, anger, resentment, or guilt, it craves the fuel of negativity. And the ego willingly obliges, supplying thoughts that amplify the pain. The pain body also projects itself outward, seeking to create conflict with others. It distorts perceptions, making you see enemies where there are none, inflaming situations, and perpetuating cycles of blame and reactivity. This cycle can dominate your life without your awareness. You may not realize that your thoughts and emotions are being controlled by an entity within you, an entity that is not you but uses your life energy to sustain itself. The pain body, when active, cuts you off from the present moment. It keeps you trapped in the past, reliving old wounds, or in the future, anticipating new ones. This state of unconsciousness is its home, for it cannot survive in the light of awareness. Awareness is the key to liberation. The first step is recognizing that the pain body exists within you as a separate entity, not as your identity. When the pain body arises, you do not resist or suppress it, nor do you indulge or feed it. Instead, you simply observe it. This act of observation creates a space between you and the pain. In this space, the pain body begins to lose its power. It thrives on unconsciousness, but the light of your presence weakens it. To observe it without judgment or identification is to dissolve it. Similarly, the ego thrives on unconscious identification. The ego defines itself by what it possesses, whether material, relational, or emotional. It uses the pain body to reinforce its sense of separateness and superiority or inferiority. The ego cannot exist without the stories it tells about who you are. When you see these stories for what they are, mental constructs without substance, you begin to transcend the ego. Freedom comes not through fighting the pain body or the ego but through transcending them. This transcendence arises from presence. Presence is the state of being fully aware in the moment, without judgment or attachment to thoughts and emotions. In presence, you realize that you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your pain body, and not your ego. You are the awareness that observes all these phenomena. When you live in presence, the pain body loses its ability to dominate your life. It may still arise occasionally, but it no longer controls you. You recognize it, allow